a place to put them, and then afterwards we're going to look in the opposite direction for a wind down. Holidays. Let's escape mentally to the places we've most relaxed and enjoyed. Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Sunday Brunch with me, Graham Columb, on Teachers Talk Radio. Have you been listening already today? Did you hear Sobia Iqbal's show this morning? She's on from 9 till 10:30 on Teachers Talk Radio. And what a show it was this morning. She had a wonderful guest called Theepan on today, and they were talking maths, maths growth mindset and engagement with learning, positive learning experiences. It was awesome. I loved it. It really was a great start to my Sunday. Another absolute belter from Sobia. Wonderful, wonderful co-host. So I'm simply following. This week has been awesome for Teachers Talk Radio. If you're not entirely sure with what you're listening to, this is Teachers Talk Radio. It's a talk radio for teachers. Does exactly what it says on the tin. And we talk all through different topics. We've got a great range of hosts, only growing by the moment. We give a place for teachers to come and share their thoughts, engage, essentially also kind of sometimes accidentally have amazing CPD throughout your week. Great range of voices, great range of opinions, and the guests just continue to be stellar guests as time goes on. But for me, here on this humble Sunday morning, which blends into our afternoon, I'm going to be talking mainly about winding down, mainly about finding a place to escape and let our brain switch off. But before that, as is often the case, we will be talking through the topics of the hour, current affairs, talking about what's going on in the world, and thinking about how we feel about all the things going on in the world. As always, I strongly encourage you throughout the show to text in, call in, drop your comments. I want to hear from you guys, the responses. You are also fellow teachers. It's Teachers Talk Radio because it's not just me talking. It's you guys too. So I'm hoping I get to hear from all of you wonderful listeners and thinkers as we get through this session today. So, like I said, we're going to talk through current affairs. Then we're going to get a little bit into tags. I would love to hear your stories of tags because actually teacher assessed grading, which is what tags are, or teacher assessed grades. I don't have to suffer those. I'm actually a year 6 teacher. So we're not doing SATs, but we're doing types of assessments. I guess it's similar-ish, but where we would send our papers off and have them marked, we're doing a little bit of an internal assessment this year. So similar, but I can't help but think the weight of tags at GCSE level and A level is simply overwhelming in comparison to SATs. So I would love to hear from you and your opinions on tags and just your experiences. Whether you have a big opinion or not, you might just be going through it, and I'd love to hear how those are going for you as you find your way through this final term of the year. Hurrying towards summer, right? It's not long now. We've got a week. Then we got a half term, and then only 6 weeks, and that's it, which is just crazy. Like the last 6-week term seems like it's gone in a blink. So who knows? Now, today's show is a funny one. I have, as you all know, I have segments in the show. I have Graham's Shame, which I confess my biggest errors and errors in my ways over the years past in my life, so that you guys can enjoy my errors and feel perhaps better about the decisions you've made in your life, or relate to the bad decisions I've made in mine. That's a fun segment I have, but I have an early, I wouldn't call it a shame, but a confession or something to share on the airwaves this week. I had a shock discussion in my class this week. I came in, I think it was probably Thursday morning, maybe Wednesday morning. I came into my class, and a child in the class comes up and it says, Mr. Column, I've been listening to your podcast on the way into class. Oh boy. And that was it. It was out then. The year 6s, the class know that I am here on Teachers Talk Radio on the Sunday Brunch. And so, yes, I am slightly anxious about what may become of my Sunday Brunch hour as potentially 30 year 6s pile in to share their opinions. I'm sure they'll get very, very bored quickly. I hope they get bored quickly and disappear as fast as they arrive. But in case the viewer numbers go up and people think, where are all these viewers coming from? He's doing well this week. Well, that's not what it is. It's kids coming in to spy on their teacher and no doubt mock their teacher for some boo-boo I make along the way. But it's all good. It's all good. I'm keeping the Sunday brunch as is. I'm going to cruise through the show as I usually do. But just so you know, in case there's some odd comments or some odd turns through the show, that could be a crowd of Year Sixes, who, by the way, I have told I will be blocking hard and fast if I need to, and booting them out. So that's how I roll with my Year Sixes, and if they are here, welcome 6C to the chat, along with all of my other wonderful Teachers Talk Radio listeners. I did want to talk about Teachers Talk Radio this week, because there's something about it that this week has been such a great week for the shows we've had. Not only Sobia this morning with her wonderful guest Deepan talking maths was just really inspiring and so engaging for me as someone who I love my maths teaching. I'm quite proud of my maths teaching, but there are some barriers that I contend with week on week, and I was really happy to hear Deepan's views on those, and Sobia hosting through like the pro she is. But earlier in the week, we've had some just amazing shows. I was listening to Charlotte Marshall, who's a relatively new host here on Teachers Talk Radio. And we have a call coming in. I'm anxious. Is it going to be? Oh, no, it's gone. It's gone. As soon as it came, it went. That was no doubt one of my Year 6 pupils playing around with the app. Yes, what was it? Earlier in the week, Charlotte Marshall was talking about part-time teachers. And that whole world of part-time teachers who, honestly, when I switched on the show, criticize me as you may, and fair criticism it would be. I kind of thought most part-time teachers, mums recently had kids, and that's generally how that goes. You have a kid, you come in less time so you have more time at home. And actually, she totally corrected me on that. Totally corrected me, opened my eyes to a world of different levels of part-time teaching. Some people who just, have a slightly less than full-time, other people who have far, far less for all their different reasons. People, phasing in, phasing out of education, people studying, writing books, really eye-opening to hear about all the different types of teachers and different types of roles there are in all the different schools and the kind of stigmas they have to contend with as a part-time teacher. That was awesome. That was Charlotte Marshall earlier in the week. And then absolutely knocked me off my feet, Emma Shepherd's show. She has the morning break on Tuesday, and she had a really challenging show this week about fertility treatment, about having trouble becoming pregnant in teaching, which is obviously a tricky environment when you're around families and kids all the time. I have my own journey through that, which I won't go into, but it really, again, I thought I knew a fair amount going in, and it just knocked me off my feet and actually really opened my eyes to the struggles and stigmas and all the things that go into that. So that's Emma Shepherd's show earlier in the week. If you're interested in either of those topics, I so highly recommend going to listen to those shows, because they just the quality of hosting on Teachers Talk Radio and the range of topics and opinions that we have coming in at the moment is just mind-blowing. And I can tell you, fellow listeners, that it's only just getting started. We have a barrage of hosts on the way. We're going to have a full schedule soon. I think we surely are getting way close. If we have percentages, I reckon we'd be close to 90%, 95% of a full schedule. I'm not going to say who the new hosts are, because that's the excitement of it. But it's just an exciting time to be here. Welcome. Let's see all the wonderful things we have ahead in time on Teachers Talk Radio. But before I end up seeing my hour and a half out just talking about other people's hours and a half, let's get into the affairs of the moment, the current affairs in the world of teaching. And one of those in particular I'm really going to double down on, and that's the tags conversation. If you're in the room right now and you have experience of tags, that's teacher assessed grading in secondary school, in college, any level of education, I would love to hear your views, hear your opinions, and we're about to get into that very, very soon. Just a few comments here. Tom Hopkins-Burke says there's 30 separate hosts now. Wowza. And that's got to be almost a full calendar in your week for Teachers Talk Radio. And Sobia is looking forward to that tags conversation. I am too. I'm really keen to hear from you guys and hear about your experiences in tags. But before we do that, let's just talk through some of the news things that came up through the week. And can I say, given that we're 10 minutes into the show now, nothing's gone catastrophically wrong. I haven't had any year 6 attacks. So thank you, year 6 kids. If you are listening, if you're somewhere amongst those listeners, thank you for being awesome, as you always are. My class are pretty amazing, to be fair. So let's have a little look at things in the news at the moment. Eurovision was on last night. I have a caller coming in. Is this to talk about Eurovision? They're gone. They're gone. It's got to be a kid. Got to be a kid. All right. Eurovision was on yesterday. Ooh. How do we feel about the Eurovision, the state of our Eurovision at the moment? Nil points for the UK, as I can't say is incredibly surprising. We've seen patterns like that in recent years. We know it's political. We know the deal with Eurovision, but it's fun, right? It's fun, and surely we can kind of, if anything, we can pull out a kind of self-effacing joy of, yeah, we are kind of like, we get why we've got nil points. Brexit wouldn't necessarily put us in the best standard, no matter how you feel about Brexit. You may love it, you may hate it, but it can't put us in great stead when competing in Eurovision, which is just, we know it's political voting, so we can't say we're too surprised. Let's have a little look. Jenny's dropped a lovely comment in here. She says, I've so enjoyed catching up on shows I can't listen to live. I'm learning lots and have been sharing with others. Thanks, Jenny. That's awesome. I love that. I'd love to hear it. Also, Jenny, I wonder if you suffer the same pain I suffer, because obviously when I'm teaching through the day, I don't listen to them live and I have to listen back. But don't you find yourself desperate to comment and desperate to call in? Because I certainly do. When I listen to Emma's and Charlotte's both this week, I had so many points. I was like, oh, I want to comment. I want to say this on the show. But didn't manage it. But thankfully, this morning I did with Sophia's show. But yes, I'm glad if you guys are loving Teachers Talk Radio. I'm loving Teachers Talk Radio. Let's all just crack on and enjoy it so much. Why don't you have any call? We'll see. We'll see. Let's have a look. Eurovision. So what's your thoughts on Eurovision? Do we deserve the nil points? Does everyone need to get over it a bit and move on? Shouldn't it be more about the music, or do you quite enjoy the political voting? I always quite like guessing how it's going to go and which countries are going to be neglected and which ones won't get the votes, because it is so based on the news and all of that type of stuff. It's good fun. So but that was it. It actually reminded me of, we were getting nil points. Did you ever see the Mitchell and Webb sketch where they're dressed up as World War II, they're German officers in World War II. I won't get too political into it, but they're sat there and they're looking at the details of the war, and it starts to dawn on them, are we the bad guys? They say, are we the bad guys? And I can't help but think, when we watch Eurovision and we keep getting nil points from every single country, the question dawns on us as the UK, are we the bad guys? Surely, I'll leave that there. I'm not going to answer any questions to that. But there we go. In other news, Marcus Rashford returning. Is he a superhero? He possibly is a superhero at this point, because he seems to be taking on most things that we've had, most problems we have sitting around in education that just shouldn't be and are so awful and unfair. They've sat around in education for so long, and he seems to be coming in a handful of years, has dealt with a fair number of them. He's had to really push for the free school meals over lockdown, as we know, really made his name there. But, people saw him then as, oh, he comes in and he has his say on free school meals. But this week, he's moved on. He's now on books. He's saying, people who, aren't so financially well off, they don't have the same access to books. That affects their chances in life. It affects their education. Get the books out there to them. And he's taking it on. Why do we have to wait for a celebrity footballer to do these things? And that I think it's awesome that he does it. I think it's absolutely brilliant and amazing, and a massive respect to him. But it frustrates me also that that it comes to a celebrity footballer who's made his name fighting for the voices that don't get to be so loud. We should all be doing that, shouldn't we? We should all be making that voice and stepping up and trying to find our place in these conversations, not just sitting back and watching someone else do it. So I wonder what more we can do to jump off the springboard of what Marcus Rashford, he's highlighted the problem. He's talking about books. Now, what more can we do to help further that and solve that problem about, accessibility to reading, and of course the ongoing, nutrition and food related issues that kids face from different backgrounds. I'm glad of him, but I think it's an interesting reflection on the world we're in at the moment, and certainly the state of things in the UK, and who's being looked after and who isn't being looked after. If you have thoughts on any of this, then you can call in. You can call in and we can talk about it live. You can drop in your thoughts. There's a round grey icon on the Podbean app. And if you click that, you can call in and share your thoughts about about Marcus Rashford, about what he's doing with reading, with what he's doing with lunches. Do you think it's right that we have to wait for these celebrities to do it? Why do you think it hasn't been done before? There's loads of things we could talk about on that. If you don't want to call in, I fully understand. It can be rather intimidating being live on the air. So drop a comment. You can drop a comment on all kinds of places. You can drop them on Twitter and on Facebook, but I will most likely see them if you drop them on the Podbean app live here on Sunday morning as we talk through the issues. So Eurovision, Marcus Rashford. And then we move on to a much more contentious issue, one that you're probably a lot closer to as the average listener to Teachers Talk Radio, and you probably have a fair bit of experience and knowledge on. I would love to talk to you all about TAGs. TAGs, that stands for Teacher Assessed Grades. And of course, right now, a lot of teachers have just lost their weekend or are currently losing their weekend because they are marking teacher assessed grades. That means because of the COVID pandemic, because exams haven't gone ahead like they usually do, teachers, kids still need qualifications. They still need their GCSEs. They still need their A levels. So who's going to get those grades? Who's going to qualify them? Who's going to say that they're either succeeding or not succeeding in their journeys in education? Well, of course, it's come down on the shoulders of teachers. We are now assessing kids as teachers alongside everything else at this point in the year, right? Let's talk about everything else we're doing. So we're teaching lessons day to day. Most of us will be teaching at least one lesson per day, if not teaching the whole day. With any of that teaching comes marking, comes assessing within lessons, AFL, planning things further based on those lessons. That's standard part of the package, right? That's what we do as teachers. So no big problems there. But we are heading towards the end of the year, so we have other things cropping up, don't we? We have parents' evenings, we have reports that are coming up. We're having to write all of our reports for all the children that we teach, whether that's one subject per child and there's over 100 children, or we're teaching multiple subjects on 30 children or so, and we have to write the whole report. We have trips at the end of the year, maybe. We have special days. We have end of year performances or celebrations to sign off the kids. We're organizing end of year get-togethers or end of year celebrations in school, maybe journals that they can sign, t-shirt signing. We're dealing with events. Parents are ticketing. All of these things are on our plate to be dealing with. And then alongside it, we're now being expected to qualify kids for their GCSEs or A levels as part of TAGs. Oof. Not a fun thing. I'm desperate to hear from you guys on this. If you guys have experience of TAGs, I would really like to hear what your experience has been, about how you've gotten on. Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's not fair? And for what reasons? A lot of the light has been shone on the TAG problem originally by a tweet from Michael Rosen. So I'm going to read that out now. And that was originally what shined my eyes on it, to be honest, or brought my eyes to the problem. Because as a primary school teacher, although we are doing internal SATs, so I am doing a little bit of SATs grading that I wouldn't usually do, it's not so big and bad. It's not that far off what we might usually do at this time of year. So I can just about handle it. I still have an issue with it because it is asking for more, and there's nothing else being reduced. They're not saying, oh, you're doing that extra assessment, so we'll take this away. That's not happened. It's just been added on top of what is usually already a crazy time of year. Here's the text from Michael Rosen that brought a lot of people's attention to the problem. Dear Boris Johnson, you said that GCSE exams for this year were cancelled. They're not cancelled. They're called assessments. And instead of examiners marking them, teachers are, for no money. But the schools have paid the exam boards. Where's the money? Yours, Michael Rosen. And that really sums up the problem, is that the exam boards apparently have been paid because obviously it's not their fault that they haven't been able to function. They've been covered from the COVID pandemic. But teachers who are doing the extra work, they're not getting any reimbursement. They're not getting any recognition. Actually, this week, it seems to have gone in the opposite direction. And extra criticism has come to teachers. There was talk of bias in teacher assessed marking. Well, honestly, you're throwing this job at us at the last minute, and we're expected to now plug out, GCSE grades and A-level grades for kids in our schools and classes. And the one thing the press can come out and say is there might be bias in some of these. The press did not recognize that many schools are doing blind marking on their assessments. So they don't know the children they're marking. They're doing them without, essentially anonymously. So that cuts away a lot of bias that can creep in. Further to that, there's moderation that, of course, most schools are going to do as they're doing these teacher assessed grades. This has all been come up with at the last minute, by the way, press and government. You know, this wasn't given to us. It wasn't planned out. Hey, you guys should be doing blind marking. You should be doing moderation. We were just given the job of, out of nowhere, which we haven't done before, that we should be coming up with these, you know, marking these kids and GCSEs and A levels. And it's absolutely death by assessment. It's assess. We're weighing the pig far more than we're feeding the pig. And it's not great. I have a big problem with it. And I also have a problem with the way it's becoming normalized in teaching. I'll get back to that in a moment. One of our wonderful regular listeners who lives in the hills, it was beautiful photos on his Twitter. Tim, he says he was marking assessments yesterday, moderating next week, was worried that the public release of assessment material by exam boards would have an impact, but didn't see much evidence of it in my own class, even though they had access. That's interesting. I didn't even know there was a public release of the assessment material. And then that, yes, compromises, I guess, the integrity of the exams. And surely if there was a problem there, who'd get blamed? Probably us. I don't mean to moan too much about it, but I do think it's just, I think we as teachers have to draw a line at some point. We have to decide, where's our line? Where do we go? No, where do we say no more? Right. And that's a question I put to you guys in this situation of, you know, the end of year is famously intense. And that's on a normal year, right? When we finish that point in July, we're all absolutely knocked off our feet with all of the end of year wrap up events, with all of the reports, with all of the assessments that we do normally, all of the handovers to other classes. It's chaotic. It's a lot. We have, you know, 7 weeks of still being in the classroom with kids. And now we're expected to have these TAGs, teacher assessed grades, as well. And there's also the emotional responsibility that comes with assessing kids at GCSE and A level, because we know how important GCSEs and A levels are. And that's also why I don't shine a light so much on my own, you know, our doing internal SATs. Is we know that SATs are really, the purpose of SATs is often to assess schools, to assess education, to assess different things. It's the kids don't go for job interviews at age 18 and cite their SAT results, and rightfully so. But they do cite their GCSEs and they do cite their A levels. And that's a lot of pressure to put on teachers who've already, you know, we've had the online learning, we've had the lockdowns, we've had the mental health of kids going up and down and coming in and out of school, not knowing what the next day is going to be like, all the washing hands and changing the style of our job. The time that we get to teach is so much less because we're doing all the sanitizing and the distancing. We've had so many kind of cuts in our profession creeping into the quality of what we can do. Like, we can't do science tests in the same way because we can't all socially mix and we can't share materials and things like that. And our time is gone because kids are washing their hands. And now we're also, you know, they've just thrown on, assess them as well, as well, and just set up their future for us, will you? And then on top of that, it comes up in the paper, oh, teachers might be biased. That's not good, is it? There's a chance teachers will be biased. That's what you want to report. Thanks, guys. Thanks, government. Thanks, press. You know, and then the other thing is, when that comes out in the press, a better government would address it. And they would say, look, you know, they would represent the teachers. Government say nothing. It's a tumbleweed blows through Parliament when this time is going on for us. We're all running around. It could be a lot better, couldn't it? Sobia says, I agree. There's a lot of pressure on educators right now. I think we don't realize it, honestly. I think the amount of pressure we have on us, I think we could quite easily, not notice. This is how it goes, isn't it? And we see it over the COVID period. We just take on the things that are asked of us. And that's good. You know, that's a thing about survival, isn't it? It's an instinct that whatever we need to do, we have to do. And we take it on. And only after the event, you go, whoa, that was a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did we manage to get through that? Look at how much has changed and look how much we've dealt with. You don't usually realize when we're in it. Haven't heard much from Gavin Williamson recently, nor me. And why not? Isn't this the point? You should be stepping up. And then also, and I hate to say it because I want unions to be amazing. And I absolutely believe in unions. I absolutely believe they should be there. But where are they, man? Where are the unions? Why aren't they stepping up? Why aren't they representing, there's this just like denial of anything. Well, we have to do it, better just crack on. Well, what about if we didn't? What about if we said somebody needs to be employed to do this? Somebody, let's come at this from a different angle. Let's think of all the different ways we could achieve these children reaching their endpoints that they need and getting their qualifications, and then, and review what's the best way forward, rather than just taking what's thrown at us and going, oh, here we go, better just move on. It's something to think about. Or just, thinking, well, maybe the teachers need to do the extra work, but let's support them with it. Let's reimburse them with something. Let's fund them. Let's give them extra hours. Let's give them an extra day, where the kids aren't expected to be in, so they can catch up on marking assessments, a couple of days. An extra half-term week wouldn't go amiss. Depending on the school and depending on the context and what kind of issues people are facing. A comment here from Jenny says, the possible extended hours being floated just now, we're on our knees and so are the kids. That is another topic I wanted to move on to as well, is the extended hours are now being thrown around. Either an optional 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. day at school, or a mandatory half hour added onto the day. Well, I have two angles on it. One is, maybe if you have the extended day, you'd be looking at who's going to be teaching there, because it can't be teachers who are doing the assessments and the reports and the meetings and the planning and the marking. You can't have us work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So then we're looking at stand-ins, maybe support volunteers. And then you're looking at the quality of the teaching. Well, you would expect, I don't mean this as an insult to people who aren't qualified, but of course, the point of the qualification is that we're a bit more knowledgeable in the role of being a teacher. We're a bit more on the game of being a teacher. So if it's being done by volunteers, then surely the merits of doing it are less. Or there's the half hour, which is mandatory. That's not so crazy. But again, it's just a little chink, isn't it? They look at, right, add a half hour on there. What's his name? Michael Wilshaw has been talking about cutting the summer holidays down to 4 weeks. And then we're now doing the GCSEs and the A-level assessments. If they go well this year, what's to say the government won't go, well, there's a cost-effective way of dealing with exam boards. Just get the teachers to do it. And before you know it, we're working an extra half hour. We've got half the holidays we used to have. We got, this is exactly what unions are for. This is exactly the purpose. We have a certain rights, certain privileges, certain allowances in our job that allow us to balance our lives and our mental health with the things that are asked of us in our job. Once they start being chipped away, that's absolutely the purpose of the union, to come in and address the issue of those going away. So what on earth is going on? I ask. I know I'm on a bit of a rant. I kind of deliberately planned to come on a rant on this show today, because it's really wound me up. Just the kind of what we've seen over the last few years are teachers just being milked and milked and milked, and more being asked and more being asked. And I saw one head teacher I put a tweet out about the tags and said, what's your thoughts on them? And one head teacher, he seemed like a lovely guy, and I know his heart was in absolutely the right place. He goes, we've had tags treats in the staff room for the week. So every day there's lots of biscuits and things for teachers. I'm sorry, but that's lovely from a head teacher point of view. But biscuits in a staff room do not account for the problem. They don't fix the issue. And we've got to stop that whole teacher kind of myth that give them a cup of tea and it's all fine. It's not fine with a cup of tea. We need more than a cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit to deal with our home lives, our families, our hobbies, our aspirations, all being cut into by constant being asked of things. And then the only time we get into the media is for negatives. Oh, teachers are moaning again. How dare they? How dare they? Well, something to think about, guys. Something to think about. I know I'm a bit on my high horse about it. I would love to hear from you. Let's see. I've been disappointed with the unions as well. They are the ones who are supposed to be stepping up right now. Where I'm annoyed at the government, I'm annoyed at the press. They're not supposed to be brilliant to us. Well, government maybe are, but unions it's their job. So maybe we need to start, having a word with those a little bit and actioning them to represent a little bit better. We get pastries, Sophia says. Better than nothing. But and I'm sure that's probably what that head teacher meant as well. You're probably thinking pastries are helpful, and it's a nice gesture. But really, we could do with pastries and either a wage increase or a bit of time to manage, a bit of time out of class to manage it. And whether that means the kids don't come in for an extra day or two, or they have some kind of an activity or something that occupies them in a different way. You know, it can be managed in so many different ways. We are creative people. There are so many ways we can sort this problem, but I don't think pastries is one of them, though I think it is a sweet gesture. Tags, what's your opinion? If you have an opinion on tags, if you have an experience on tags that you would like to share, or maybe you're just feeling up to your eyeballs in it and you just want to offload, I would love to hear from you. Please call into the Podbean app. You need to download the app. There's a round grey icon. Hit the round grey icon and you can call in and speak to me live and share your experiences with TAGs in school. Perhaps you think they're right and it's fair and the current situation is just another kind of merit of teachers and good job. We should continue to step up and represent ourselves well. If that's your opinion, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to discuss it and I'd love to challenge you and ask, where is the line for you? If you have an idea of where your line is, or maybe you've already come to meet your line and you decided enough was enough, I'd love to hear from you too. So TAGs, teacher limits, making the most of our time in school and not just being constantly milked. I'd love to hear if you have any opinions on those. Get involved. Either get commenting in the Podbean app or get calling and we can have a chat live on the air on Teachers Talk Radio. I am quickly going to pop on the news. Wonderful bit of news here from Megan Goods, our newsreader. Please enjoy and we'll come back to talking in just a moment. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. The annual date for counting students eligible for pupil premium funding has been moved forward, meaning students who became eligible between October 2020 and January 2021 will have to wait until October 2021 to be counted. Schools face losses of almost £118 million of funding as a result. A survey by the National Association of Head Teachers highlighted that nearly 62% of schools have at least 5 pupils who became eligible between October 2020 and January 2021, and will now not be counted until much later this year. Philip Wright, Director General of Exam Board Representative JCQ, is facing backlash from overworked and overtired teachers following an article published in Schools Week. In the article, Wright said exam boards had been working harder than ever, and their work was simply just not immediately visible. He also appealed to teachers by saying he recognised the enormous responsibility placed on schools and colleges and its implications for teacher workload. Because, far from twiddling our thumbs, we feel it too. The suggested empathy did little to appease teachers, however, who took to Twitter to express their dissatisfaction. Ofsted's annual parent survey has shown that 87% of parents think that their child's school has handled the pandemic well. 7 in 10 parents also said they had received guidance or training from their child's school to help support remote education at home. Around 2/3 of those questioned, however, did state that they were worried about their child's learning loss and mental health. That was your daily education news briefing.
Live from London, this is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Welcome to the Sunday Brunch with me, Graham Columb, on Teachers Talk Radio. It's good to be here. I've been having a little bit of a rant about TAGs, but we're soon going to calm that. We're going to move on to think about holidays. I want to hear about your dream holidays, the places you escape to when you're feeling stressed to remedy the current stresses of the world. If you have holidays to share, get in touch. We are live from London. This is the Sunday Brunch with Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/LSW/TT Radio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TT Radio. Yes, indeed. Welcome to Teachers Talk Radio, the one place to be for a great range of teacher voices, all talking on different angles, different opinions, different speakers to come in and talk about all the things that are affecting your day-to-day life as a teacher. There's so much good going on in Teachers Talk Radio. I'm so proud to be here. Welcome, and I'm glad that you're here with me too. I have just been having a long old rant on TAGs, and I'm still calling out for if anybody would like to share their current TAG experience or their current kind of how they're finding it, then I would love to hear from you. If you would like to interact and talk with the show on any of the things we talk about, then the Podbean app is the easiest way to interact and do that. On the Podbean app, you can call in live to speak to me on the airwaves right now on Sunday afternoon. You don't have to do that. If you're feeling a little bit shy, you can drop in comments, and there's lots of ways you can drop in comments. On the Twitter ticker, you can drop comments, and on Facebook too. But the best place to drop in comments is on the Podbean app, because I will see those live dropped into the room as we go through the show, and then I can read them out and respond to them, which is nice, because this is Teachers Talk Radio after all. Teachers is pluralized. There's an S there, not an apostrophe before the S. If anything, there'd be an apostrophe after the S, which is to say that it's not just one teacher talking on the radio. The hope is that many of us teachers will talk on the radio and share our views. So views on TAGs, views on Marcus Rashford, views on all kinds of different things in education. If you want to get involved and have a chat, then this is the place to be. We're on the Sunday Brunch with me, Graham Columb. If you want to find us on Twitter, Teachers Talk Radio is at TT Radio 2021 on Twitter, and I am Graham Column VO, and I'm in all kinds of places. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and actually Teachers Talk Radio is on Instagram too. We're all over the place. What can I say? We're all over the place. You can find us. Just Google it, people. Google Teachers Talk Radio. Google Graham Column, and you'll see me there. I say Google Graham Column. That's what my kids did in my class this week, and they found out that I am a host here on Teachers Talk Radio, and so now there was a bit of buzz in the class over the week about listening to this show. But I'm sure by now they are way bored and they've switched off and have gotten back to eating or playing video games or artwork or something wonderful in their own lives. But there we go. If you're here, 6C, good to have you in the room. Crack on. Good times. So yes, welcome to Teachers Talk Radio. We've been talking about the TAGs. If you have an angle on the TAGs, or if you've been experiencing TAGs, please feel free to call in and share your thoughts on those. Otherwise, I would like to remedy the stress of TAGs a little bit. I've been holding this one for a while. I wanted to talk about holidays and getaways that we've had as teachers. Essentially, I've been holding it for a point where I think we could really do with it, where I think it's necessary to really wind down. And so I thought, as a remedy to all the TAG stress that I've seen in the world over the last week and all the other stuff going on, to add to it slightly on the rantathon that I've had, some other schools are doing Mockstead inspections right now. I talked about Michael Wilshaw coming in. He's talking about chopping up the summer holidays and having only 4 weeks. Some schools are doing Mockstead inspections. That's saying they're paying people to come in and act as Ofsted to their schools now, at this time in 2021, this soon. I was going to say after the pandemic, during a pandemic, they're getting Mockstead inspections in. Why are we like this as teachers? Why are we so suicidal in the job? It's like some leaders kind of despise their staff. What's going on? Why would you be getting inspectors in at this point when people are doing their TAGs and people are doing cramming so much stuff at the end of the year? Give people a break. We need a break, don't we? It's coming up soon. We have one more week and then there's a half-term break. I hope you do get to enjoy those breaks. I always find in that last half term, I spend a lot of it writing reports, or at least thinking about writing reports. And a good point there in the comments that actually students are exhausted too. We all need breaks. Also, if you're doing a Mockstead at this time, does it not strike you as a little bit? Mocksteads in general have always struck me slightly as insecure leadership. they always strike me as people who can't assess their own qualities in their school. Like in my own school, I'm pretty sure my head can go around. She can see that's a good lesson. That's a good bit of learning in their books. That's a good bit of teaching going on in the classroom. They can assess that themselves. Why do you need some other people to come? Do you not know what you want from your own school well enough to have to then pay people to come in and tell you what's going well and what's not? It strikes me, like I say, insecure leadership, or leadership who want to pass the buck of criticism to external people, so they're not seen as the bad guy, right? They go, oh, Moxted said we need to do this, and the Moxted people said we have to do that, rather than just stepping up and saying, guys, we need to do this in our school. This needs to be improved, so forth and so forth and so forth. At the start of the weekend on Friday, I saw a tweet going out of somebody. They'd kind of set up some books lovely on a table, cup of tea beside them, and it said, looking forward to a distraction-free weekend to crack on with my CAGs, they said, but it's the same as TAGs, teacher assessed grades. And that really got to me, the fact that we're starting to enjoy. I guess I shouldn't say that. We should be enjoying these things. We should be trying to make the best out of these TAGs. But I kind of feel like it's a bit Stockholm syndrome-ish. Like we're growing to love the pain that we're being put through by the things that are asked of us, right? Rather than saying this isn't the way it should be, and we should resist, and we should find other ways around it. Instead, we're going, make the best of it. Let's be positive, even though it's totally unreasonable, the amount that's been put onto us in the last year. But there we go. I have to say, I don't feel like personally like really jaded about it. I'm fortunate enough to be in a primary school with really strong leadership who look after us. They really value our mental health. So I personally, although I'm having a rant, I personally I'm not necessarily aligned with all of the things I'm saying in my day-to-day job. I more so feel for those who are not being looked after. And, yesterday I was at an occasion together with friends, which was nice for the first time in a long time. But fellow teachers, they were really battered by the TAGs. They weren't feeling like they were being allowed a lot of balance in their life. They were just being crashed through the things that were being asked of them. And so I'm trying to represent those guys and a lot of you guys who will be really, really being used up at this point. But like I say, does not actually reflect on my own personal situation, which I'm very, very fortunate to be in the school that I'm in and the situation I'm in. But there we go. This is the thing, isn't it, in the country, is that if there were lots of bonuses kind of given out to teachers who are doing TAGs, then there are teachers like myself who might not necessarily be as desperately in need of such things. So there we go. Things to think about. I'm going to wrap up my TAG rant there. We're about halfway through the Sunday brunch with me, Graham Columb. And I would like to move on to happier things, to more relaxing times. I would like us to let our minds escape for the next 45 minutes. I'd like to talk about breaks that you've been on. I want us to come away. The one thing I can offer you guys as listeners on the Sunday brunch is I don't always want to kind of weigh down the things that are already weighing us down. I want to alleviate some stress, allow us a mental escape. So I'm asking you guys, what's been the best break that you've ever had in your life? The best, most relaxing holiday? What's the most relaxed you've ever felt? I want you to try and engage with that thought right now. What's been your number one holiday, your dream place you've been? If you could go back to a memory in your mind right now to quell all stress in your mind, where would you go to? That's the question I'm asking. And I can't wait to go through some of these responses that I've had already. Obviously, if you have some wonderful stories or thoughts that you'd like to share on Teachers Talk Radio, you can interact and call in on the Podbean app, or you can drop comments on the Podbean app and you can tell me about your holidays. And maybe you've got plans for the holidays coming up in the summer. And even if it's somewhere local, a lovely escape and a way of relaxing. The reason I want to put that on the air today is not just to allow us a mental escape, but also to share ideas. People are starting to think, I'd really like to book a holiday. Where could we go? Well, here's your one-stop shop for some ideas on what you could do to alleviate those, those working stresses and really cure the frustrations and stresses you might have in your life, and instead feel a lovely sense of relaxation. What could we be doing in in a year's time? What we might be planning is exciting to think about, isn't it? So let's open that door and let's let our minds escape. Let's think about holidays. Yes, indeed. I yesterday I went on to the Teachers Talk Radio hosts, and I asked them within our kind of um, within our group. I said, I asked them about holidays. What's their favorite holiday they've been on, the most relaxed they've ever felt. If they could go back to one holiday, what would it be? And the responses were just awesome. And funnily, a fair number that we had in common. So I asked them where, please give as much detail as you like. I'd really like to provide a mental escape tomorrow. That's the plan. And Amy Ferguson was straight in. And funnily enough, she said Mexico, to go to Mexico. She went to Mexico with one friend of hers. She went to the Riviera Maya, which is near to Cancun, and things like that. Somebody's dropped in a lovely comment there. Zara says, "You are great. I appreciate the positive vibes over there. I'm feeling great, and I hope you enjoy this little escape into the world of holidays over the next 45 minutes." Of course, actually, I should remind that later on in the show, on the hour of 12, we'll have Graham's Shame, which is my favorite part of the show. I share something bad that I've done in my life so you can feel better about your life. So you can look forward to Graham's Shame at the hour of 12, and then we'll continue to cruise through holiday memories at a gentle pace, like a paddle boat on a still lake. Who knows? Right, so Mexico, Riviera Maya, Amy Ferguson said, which funnily enough, I said to my wife today, number one holiday you've ever been on? She said, Mexico, of course. Honeymoon we had in Mexico. But Amy Ferguson, who's our Saturday brunch host, so the same time, but on Saturday, Amy Ferguson hosts. She's a brilliant, brilliant host, which has loads of great angles on creative arts. And yesterday, I think she was talking about LGBTQ plus in education, which is a fascinating topic, and she's got really great insights on that too. So her favorite holiday, Riviera Maya, which is the Mexican coast, with a friend of hers. She loved every single second, the weather, the food, Feliz Navidad celebrations on Christmas Eve. So she went there not in summertime, which is pretty awesome, to go at the Christmas season because, of course, that's they're getting peak summer weather at that time. New Year's Eve on the beach. Oh, think about it now, guys. Let's imagine New Year's Eve counting down to midnight on the beach of Mexico. And we had the honeymoon suite, she says, with a rooftop hot tub. Oof, which was awkward. Okay, so the relationship didn't necessarily, they weren't together, so slightly awkward. But you can enjoy a hot tub if you're not in a relationship. Of course you can. I actually have a bit of a New Year tradition with friends, funnily, where we rent a hot tub and we'll go around to one of our houses and we see in the new year in the hot tub with a glass of something in hand. And so nothing awkward about that, Amy. I fully support your hot tubbing with friends. It was brilliant. I go back there in a heartbeat. Well, yes, indeed. Myself and my wife elect that as our number one holiday, most relaxing. The thing is, in Mexico, they know how to do it, right? They do all inclusive, right? And in Mexico, if you do all inclusive, nothing's watered down. There's no kind of cutting corners. It's fully all inclusive. Me and my wife got into a habit when we were in our place in Mexico. Great hotel called Princess Yucatan Hotel on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. And we would have our breakfast, and then we'd have a second breakfast because it's all inclusive. You can have as much as you like. Then we'd have lunch. We might have an afternoon snack, but then we'd have dinner. In a dinner time, you book a place to have your dinner, and then and then you see the evening in with drinks. But the thing is, with drinks, like I like a bit of a bourbon every now and again, and they would crack open the bottle there in front of you. You'd see there'd be a labeled bottle. They wouldn't be in kind of cheap containers and you'd think, oh, has that been watered down? Is it something else? They'd be fully branded, breaking the seal in front of you. And the one, I'll never forget, one evening I was having a Jim Beam on the rocks and he was pouring it. He said, just tell me when. And honestly, it blew my mind. Just tell me when, he says. That's all inclusive. That's a proper all inclusive holiday. So Amy Ferguson, my wife, myself, and Alistair, Amy's friend, we can all absolutely prop up the Mexican holiday, and I highly recommend it for all of you. If you can mentally escape somewhere, then go to Mexico right now. If you've been there before, allow your memories to grab you and go back to that wonderful, wonderful place. Very different type of holiday. Sobia, who had her wonderful show this morning, shared an amazing trip she went on to Japan. Not just going to Japan, as it's obviously a very, very amazing place and very different to where we are now culturally, fascinating place to visit. But she did a solo trip, right? She went solo in Japan from Tokyo down to Kyoto and then Osaka. Amazing. And funnily enough, I'm privileged and blessed enough to also relate to that one, in that I went for a week only. I lived in Hong Kong for a year long ago, and I had a week there where I went to Japan on my own, and I went around the Osaka region. And that was amazing. Let's see a few of the things Sobia did when she was in Japan, in case you're thinking of going to Japan. Some things you might choose to do: Digital Art Museum, Arishiyama Bamboo Forest, beautiful. Met random people, robots. I guess she's saying she met robots, bullet trains, and bought a real Japanese umbrella to twirl. Oh man, these are dreamy times, aren't they? Dreamy times. So escape to Japan in your mind. I myself, I was young at the time, not too young. I was about 21, and I went off to Japan on my own, feeling super, super independent. It was one of those feelings you really feel like, right, going out to see the world as independently as possible. And it would be, I think, my best holiday of all time, just for that feeling of independence and discovering new things. Particularly, there was a place up in the mountains called Koyasan, and it's a Buddhist retreat, right? It was like a Buddhist village, and there were shops. It was a normal, it's a normal place, but there was all these temples, and it was just beautiful, and it happened to have snowed heavily. So it was a Buddhist retreat in the mountains of Japan, heavy snow on the rooftops of these, traditional temple buildings. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I may well send a picture out on my Twitter or something today from that trip. It was amazing. And then as I was getting the train into Kyoto, we saw the Nintendo headquarters, which is just outside of Kyoto. And if anybody's been a long time listener to the Sunday Brunch, you'll know I'm a massive Nintendo geek. And so I literally jumped off the train there, walked in that direction, and got to the Nintendo headquarters on this holiday. There's no better feeling of independence than that, and you can't really go back to it, because as you get older, if you have a partner, if you have kids, however you might holiday, those kind of deciding to jump off a train and just walk to a building because it seems cool is much harder to do as you go on. And same on family holidays, you can't just always go off in a random city in a random direction. So that was pretty cool. Sadly, though, when I got to the Nintendo headquarters, there was a little guy in an office, and he didn't speak a word of English, but he pointed to a sign on his desk which said, "You cannot go in there." So that was it. That was the end of my Nintendo adventure. He was surrounded by plushies of Pikmin and Pikachu and Mario. But it was dreamy to me. A kind of limousine type car went out of the building, and the guy in it waved to me as he went. And honestly, I felt touched by God. Maybe that's a bit much, but it was like, it really felt special, because I was just out there on my own. Some random Nintendo guy who could have been working on any game in there gave me a wave. I was like, this is peak life right now, peak life. So there you go. Anybody else? Where do you fancy going? If you could go anywhere, where would you go? Would you go to the coast of Mexico? Would you go to the cities of Japan, the towns of Japan, the mountains of Japan, or would you go somewhere else altogether? Let's have a little look. There's so many lovely ones. Actually, on Twitter this morning, I've had some amazing stories, and actually some nice, more local ones as well. So let's have a little look at some of these. And one of our regular listeners, Mike, and this is nice. It says, to switch off every day, I come home and cook. So that's interesting, isn't it? Engaging in a totally different activity help to decompress after a stressful day at work. So that's cooking. That's something we can do right now if we want to. Maybe we want to have a relax this afternoon. We're feeling stressed. Let's plan to cook something, right? What are we going to cook this afternoon? If you could cook anything, what would you stick on the hob? Who knows? Who knows? Here's another one. Miss B has been commenting on Twitter. She said, as a history teacher, Berlin was amazing, but also loved Copenhagen too. Did a conference in Florence and didn't really get to look around. So very keen to get back there. Actually, Florence, I've never been to, but I've had big positive reviews on there. Are there any fellow Florence fans in the room? My brother, I think, is his favorite city in the world. So I want you to get thinking, listeners. I want you to get thinking of your favorite places to be. Or if you just want to recite an amazing trip you've been on, you can call in and let me know how you choose to wind down. Let us escape with you to your mental escape, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? At times like this, when we've been landlocked, even though our country is an island, we've been landlocked for a long old while. So what do you do? What do you do to switch off? What do you do to escape? Call in to Teachers Talk Radio and share, and allow us to share in your mental escape. I'd love to hear about what you do. Funnily, though, Miss B has gone on to say, for total relaxation, a rooftop sun terrace in Ibiza. the family side of the island, Sorrento wins overall. Well, there you go. Ibiza. Who's been to Ibiza? I haven't, because unfortunately, I peg the idea of going to Ibiza, I peg it as intense clubbing, which is not really my style, anyone who knows me. However, there is the family side of the island. There's the more calm place, which is probably beautiful. And I bet they don't get enough tourism because everybody fears the intense clubbiness of Ibiza. There is a lovely side to it, guys. So there you go. Miss B props up Ibiza, and that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. A lovely place to escape to. Here's some other escapes that you might be planning. Kayaking on Lake Johnson in Raleigh, North Carolina. Any fellow sporting types on your holidays? What type of holiday do you go on? What is your dream holiday? Active, mountain climbing, getting on the lakes, on boats? Or are you one who's going to sit by the beach and open up a book? And I wonder what book it might be. I'm definitely more of a beach type of guy. If I'm gonna, if I'm going to wind down, I'm going to want a beach and I'm going to want a book. And if I'm reading a book, I'm probably going to read something by Haruki Murakami. Although the more I've read of him, the more I've gotten used to it now. So I kind of need to mix up my my authors of choice. But he's one who, when I'm on holiday, I do enjoy a good kind of mental escape, because he has very vivid, dreamlike, weird kind of stories. My favorite being Super Frog Saves Tokyo. If you haven't read it, it's a quick read. So there's something for you to do on your Sunday afternoon after you switch off from the Sunday brunch with me. And of course, you have a half hour between this and Khalil Rouse starting his Sunday lunch show at 1. But in that half hour, you could read Super Frog Saves Tokyo. And I promise you, you won't regret it. It's a brilliant, brilliant story. And it really is called Super Frog Saves Tokyo. It's not like a superhero, silly, it's not like if you don't know Haruki Murakami, it's a very well written, like engaging kind of book for people of all ages, of all tastes. I strongly, strongly recommend it. And no, I'm not joking. I really do love it. Just because it's so bizarre and fun. Sobia says, I just bought Pachinko. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. Pachinko, that I would love a memory jog of what that is, because it's triggering a memory in my mind, but I don't want to say it in case I'm way off, and then I'll just embarrass myself with a lack of culture and education on my half. So Pachinko over there. So many great places to escape to. Here's some local escapes. So those of you looking to the summer right now, you're probably starting to feel we could probably get booking some trips right now. We could probably do something to relax and wind down. So here's some things you could do to relax and wind down. Tim says he's off to the Peak District for the 3rd time in as many years this summer. So Peak District 3 times in 3 years. A wintry week in southern Iceland he's had in February a couple of years ago was definitely one I'd do again. And Dartmoor at every opportunity, obviously, because Tim is famous for his beautiful pictures of Dartmoor in all weather, whether it's sunny, rainy, cloudy, windy, whatever. He is out there on the hills of Dartmoor, and it's always, always so beautiful. And I do love that about some of the British countryside is no matter the weather, actually, if you don't mind a bit of rain, it's as beautiful and as fun to escape to. So Peak District is recommended there. If you fancy somewhere for your summer, you want to stay within the coastline of the UK, Peak District. I haven't been there myself, I have to say. I dream of going to Iceland, haven't also been there, but it's amazing how many of these destinations are all common ones. Like Iceland has been on my list for a long time, but there we go. Does a 6-month round the world trip count? Somebody says. I got a fun story about a round a continent trip I went on. I might save that for Graham Shame. Who knows? That's coming up in about a minute or so. I think a 6-month round the world trip counts, but I'd like to know specifically at what point on the 6-month round the world trip, what was the peak of relaxation? What was the point on that trip where you most relaxed and you thought, this is it. This is the life. Because that's what I'm all about today. I'm all about hearing what was the peak relaxation. We got 6 months in Bosnia being mentioned. Wowza. Walking in the countryside, be that the lakes, Snowdonia, or anywhere with a view. Isn't that the truth? That's what Zoe says. Zoe says anywhere with a view and no Wi-Fi. And actually, I couldn't agree more. I'm a big fan of North Wales. I used to live in North Wales, funnily, not far from Tom Rogers, the founding head of Teachers Talk Radio. And we both went to university in North Wales. And that really gave me such a love for going off on a walk, taking a pad and a pen, and maybe I might have music playing in headphones, but beyond that, it would just be, often I wouldn't have the music, and it would just be, you just hear the wind rolling over the hills and Wowzer, what an escape that was. We can do that. We can do that. We can start planning those trips now. Let's go to the hills of North Wales, people. Jenny says the Scottish Highlands are dreamlike, dreamlike. Actually, reminiscent when I see Tim's images of Dartmoor, which is obviously the complete opposite end of the country to Scotland, but similar rolling hills, rolling hills and rocks, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So Scottish Highlands, I've never been to Scotland. Shame on me. My best mate in all the world is Scottish, originally from Glasgow, and I've never made it up there. And clearly a typical southerner over here. Although I was a Midlander for a great deal of my life, I'm now locked into the south. And whenever I think about going north, it seems so far away. I just need to hit that road, don't I? I need to hit the road. So Scottish Highlands are being recommended. Peak District, Dartmoor, we got countryside, lakes, Snowdonia, anywhere. Aren't we? What an amazing place we live in that we can go to all these places. If we just want to hop in the car right now, if you've had it with your TAGs, hop in the car, leave the TAGs. Let's go see Snowdonia. Just get a view of it today. Is anybody able to do that? Is anybody in the room? Could you drive to see Snowdonia today and just tell us, how is it? How is it? Is it doing well? We have hit the hour of 12. Happy afternoon on your Sunday. You are listening to Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio. From Tom Rogers has just dropped into the comments. The uni days. Those were the days, Tom. Those were the days. We were in the same halls, me and Tom Rogers. If you know Tom Rogers, he is the man behind Teachers Talk Radio, and he's a pretty awesome guy. We went to uni together before he was a well-known teacher in the world of Twitter. He was in the halls of Bangor University in North Wales. Tell him about. I almost said the word Rathbone then, Tom, and then he said, "Tell him about Rathbone." So Rathbone. Okay, very quickly. We're on Graham Shame, and although there are many Graham Shames related to Rathbone, I should leave those for now. Rathbone was our halls of residence, and what an odd name for a halls of residence. I believe it's been like knocked down or closed off or whatever now, Rathbone. But me and Tom were there. It's how we met originally. He came to know me as a pretty nerdy, probably pretty nervous young guy back then. Sometimes known as Dr. Column. And I will never forget one time I was walking through Bangor, and I had a phone call. And it was Tom, and he'd called in because there were posters around the halls, joke posters around the halls of Rathbone, saying, "Call Dr. Column if you have any problems." And so he basically called up to test how well Dr. Column could really deal with a problem. And he didn't say who it was, and I knew it was him. You can't mistake Tom Rogers' voice; it's very, very distinct, intense Scouse. He sounds like he's. No, I won't go with any Scouse assumptions there. That would get me in trouble. But anyway, he called me to test how good Dr. Column was, and I was very bad. I didn't know basically whether he was joking the whole time, but it was a nice chat. It was a nice chat, and it's a memory I still have. I hope you do too, Tom. We're about to have the news, then we're going to have Graham Shame, and then we might have a last peruse around some holiday destinations and let our minds escape into our Sunday afternoons, and whether we manage to go there or whether we just think about them for a while and close our eyes while we breathe in some fresh air. That's okay. Let's do it. Here's the news with our most wonderful newsreader, Megan Goods. And listen to the sound effects she's placing on these new reads. They've got some oomph. She reads them like they're boom, like every news story counts because she's got these amazing little sound effects and beats throughout. So enjoy the wonderful Megan Goods as she delivers the latest education news. This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News with Megan Goods.
This is your latest Teachers Talk Radio News. The annual date for counting students eligible for pupil premium funding has been moved forward, meaning students who became eligible between October 2020 and January 2021 will have to wait until October 2021 to be counted. Schools face losses of almost £118 million of funding as a result. A survey by the National Association of Head Teachers highlighted that nearly 62% of schools have at least 5 pupils who became eligible between October 2020 and January 2021, and will now not be counted until much later this year. Philip Wright, Director General of Exam Board Representative JCQ, is facing backlash from overworked and overtired teachers following an article published in Schools Week. In the article, Wright said exam boards had been working harder than ever, and their work was simply just not immediately visible. He also appealed to teachers by saying he recognised the enormous responsibility placed on schools and colleges and its implications for teacher workload. Because, far from twiddling our thumbs, we feel it too. The suggested empathy did little to appease teachers, however, who took to Twitter to express their dissatisfaction. Ofsted's annual parent survey has shown that 87% of parents think that their child's school has handled the pandemic well. 7 in 10 parents also said they had received guidance or training from their child's school to help support remote education at home. Around 2/3 of those questioned, however, did state that they were worried about their child's learning loss and mental health. That was your daily education news briefing.
I hope you are enjoying the tones there of Megan Goods as she goes through the education news and some of the points that we touched on slightly at the start of the show as well. I hope you can all hear me loud and clear. This is Graham Columb on Teachers Talk Radio, currently talking through holidays and the best holidays you've been on. I want to hear your adventures. If you want to call in and share your best holiday or some special moments from your holidays, that would be great. Start thinking on it. Think on your best holidays, your best moments, the most relaxed you've ever been. And while you think on it, we're going to talk Graham's Shame. Yes, it's Graham's Shame. It's the part of the show where I tell you something awful I've done in my life so you feel better about the things in your life. It's very much my way of connecting with you guys as listeners. You can laugh at me or you can laugh at yourself if you've done something similar. And we can connect as listeners and speakers and people on Teacher Talk Radio. What could the shame be this week? Well, of course, we're talking holidays. We're talking the things we've done in our lives to relax. So I'm going to weigh in with a Graham Shame, a holiday-related Graham Shame. So myself and my wife, before we got married, we went on a trip around Europe. You know, Interrail. Who in the room has Interrailed around Europe? I worry about the future of Interrail after Brexit. Do we still get to do interrailing? Do British people still get to interrail? Tom Hopkins Burke has been interrailing. Beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Go interrailing. I mean, what interrailing is basically you get a ticket. And it's a ticket for most trains around Europe. David Cunningham's been going around Europe twice. Great fun. Seema has put some emojis in. I don't know what they are, but I'm going to assume she has also interrailed around Europe a bit. So me and my wife, great, she has. Awesome. Me and my wife were interrailing around Europe. And actually the first stop, you know, classic Graham Column this. First stop was Paris. Maybe this should be the shame, actually. Okay. I think this okay. I'm changing the shame. You're gonna have to get the other one later, or maybe I'll do a double today. Who knows? So the shame I'm going to go with today actually was our first stop on the interrailing trip was Paris. And of course, me being the great romantic I was, and the fact that me and my wife had been together for a while at this point, I had planned to propose. That's right, guys. Big moment in the life of Graham Column. I planned to propose in Paris. And initially, actually, I'd gotten in touch with my hotel and I'd said to them, please prepare a little basket with a champagne and some glasses, and we were going to go off to this park that I'd kind of scoped out on some maps online. I thought that looks like a beautiful spot. I'd heard it was a really romantic place, and and it wasn't Eiffel Tower. I was a big fan of, and I liked the idea of it, but I wasn't quite sure, so I thought I'd try and make it a bit different and go to this park. So I had this whole plan. And we get there on the first day. Me and Kate have a little day walking around. We go around the gardens outside the Louvre, beautiful looking statues. There's a big lake. There's that round lake with all the chairs around. We're there for a while and just really soaking it all in. Lovely. Go into the evening and we starting kind of just doing the typical. It was our first time in Paris, doing the real typical Paris trip from a couple's point of view, where we were on the corner of there was like a cafe open late. They had red wine on our table, and we were just soaking up the whole being Parisian for the evening, and it was awesome, awesome. Until as we were walking late at night, we were walking through a park, and it must have been about 11 p.m. or something. And my wife drops in, I really thought you were going to propose. and I had it planned for the next day. I was planning to do it the morning of the next day. But what do you do when your wife to be, or girlfriend at the time, says at moments before you plan to propose, I really thought you were going to propose. Do you A, panic and propose on the spot and say that's what I plan to do? Do you B, hold it and propose as planned the following day and simply deal with it internally until then? Do you, option C, kind of have a kind of major internal panic, which your wife then detects and worries greatly about, but try not to tell her what's happened, and then change the way you plan to propose entirely and do it differently sooner than you'd planned? What would you do? What would you do? Would you propose on the spot in a panic of, I meant to propose here? Or would you change it? Would you stick with the original plan, or would you do something in between? What would you do? What would you do? Because that happened to me, and it was brutal. Thing is, we were knackered. We were knackered from the trip across and from all the planning and carrying our bags. I didn't think she'd be expecting on the first day. Really put me on the spot. That one. So anyway, the what I did is I internally panicked greatly, and she could tell that I was internally panicking. She thought I was really upset with myself because I kind of dropped the ball and I wasn't going to propose. And so she was really apologetic. And, oh, please don't worry about it. Please don't worry about it. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. So we eventually got back to our hotel room. It would have been quite late at this point, about midnight. And I couldn't sleep at all. My mind was just going crazy, thinking, how am I going to do this? She's disappointed that I haven't proposed. I want to propose, but I don't want it to seem like I'm reacting, proposing in a reactionary way. There was all kinds of craziness. So I went on a little walk to McDonald's, weirdly. I think that was my excuse. I think I said, I'm going to go get McDonald's. I'm quite hungry. So I went to do that. On the way down, I said to the hotel, I said, can the champagne and the glasses, it's not going to plan. And then the next day, it so happened that my wife wanted to go see the Eiffel Tower first thing in the morning, spend the morning there. And I ended up doing a typical classic romantic propose at the base of the Eiffel Tower to the wife, to which thankfully she had not given up on me by that point. She was happy to. But yes, that will be my Graham shame for today, was basically not proposing it as early as I should have, and creating a great awkward moment. As my wife says, she was disappointed I couldn't propose, and then I had an internal meltdown thinking that I should have proposed and I've done it wrong and I don't know how to do it right, and then basically panic proposed at the base of the Eiffel Tower the following day. Graham's shame. To be honest, I don't really know whether that's shameful. It probably doesn't quite class as shame, but there we are. Anyway, it was certainly an awkward moment in my life, and it was quite a fun one. We enjoy saying to friends of ours when they're like, "Oh, how did he propose?" It's like, well, it started when she said, why haven't you proposed? Essentially, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. We'll have to get to the other Graham shame another time. Glad to see some of you are enjoying the shames of my life, the many shames, even, big to small events. It could be ordering a beer in Italy, or it could be and asking for the biletto, or it could be proposing to my wife in a chaotic way. And good times. I like to, what can I say? I like to run a consistent brand on this ship. Interesting to see in the studio. We've just had people come into the studio called Teachers That Talk, which I can't deny sounds rather like Teachers Talk Radio. Maybe there's a kindred spirit in the room, a teacher that wants to talk. If you are a teacher and you want to talk, feel free to call in. You might want to talk about a holiday you've been on. What I'm doing right now is I'm talking through holidays and escapes that we've had as teachers, because I'm well aware that many teachers are reaching the end of their tether. They are knackered. They are at their limit. They are done. And so I'm trying to provide a bit of a mental escape where we think about the different holidays we've gone on in our lives and how we've enjoyed the bonuses of those things. So we've been thinking about Mexico, Cancun, Riviera Maya, the Mexican coast, that is, all-inclusive hotels that just crack open drinks and pour them out until you say enough. Wonderful times. Hot tubs on roofs have been mentioned. Hot tubs, Christmas abroad, New Year's abroad, in hot countries is a pretty lovely thought to escape to. We've talked about solo trips in Japan. We've talked about interrailing across countries, across the countries of Europe. And I still wonder whether interrailing will be affected by Brexit. I dread that it will. I want my own children, my friends' children, and future generations and friends currently to be able to interrail. It's such a great experience, and I worry it will be canned the same way my experiences of teaching in Camp America, might be up in the air now that we're making our own rules and we're not linked to other kind of standards. Who knows? These are fears I have, people, fears. But don't worry about fears. We're mentally escaping and relaxing. So let me pull up some other hosts' escapes from Teachers Talk Radio, and let's think about some of those. Right, I'm rapid scrolling right now to find these previous stories from amazing hosts and the things they've done to escape as they've gone. There's a few backpackers amongst us Teachers Talk Radio hosts. Noreen Khalid has a wonderful, wonderful late show she does every 2 weeks. Her best holidays, Grenada and Cordoba. I lived in Sri Lanka and would love to go back there, she says. She's got all these amazing place names in Sri Lanka. I don't know any of them. That's how uneducated I am about Sri Lanka. I know it's an amazing place. I particularly hear the beaches are unbelievable and brilliant in Sri Lanka. Kitugala, she says, Nawa Ekia, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, Kandy, all fabulous places to visit in Sri Lanka. So write them down, people. If you want to book a fancy holiday somewhere, you got recommendations here from good, they're good recommenders in the room here. Mal Krishnasamy, who hosts an amazing Monday morning breakfast show. She sees in your week in the best way possible. She has done solo backpacking. So I did like a week solo in Japan. I couldn't call it backpacking. I simply went around Japan for a week. But so Mal Krishnasamy has solo backpacked Australia. What a amazing experience. What an amazing experience that must have been. And it doesn't surprise me. There's something about Mal where she kicks a lot of butt, I would say. And it doesn't surprise me that she would take on Australia on her own. Wolf Creek didn't put her off. I'll tell you that. Whenever I think about backpacking in Australia, I have a deep sense of fear from watching Wolf Creek that's what happens to backpackers in Australia. But of course it isn't. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. And solo backpacking there, I can only imagine the adventures she might have had. Well, here's some. If you want to mentally escape to Australia for a moment, imagine the red earth and the hot sun and the wildlife. She says horse riding across the Gwydir River, sleeping in a sheep station, partying in Sydney with a load of drag queens. Fabulous. Wowza. The cities, the countryside, and stuff in between. The sheep station in between sounds fun. Best holiday backpacking across Southeast Asia, Thailand, hitting all the historical sites. Funnily, when you were saying about Australia there, Mal, I was thinking about my trip to Thailand, where I was sat in the back of a cattle van going from one location to another and thinking, I hope these guys are taking me where I want to go, because you do have to put your trust in people. But that's some of the loveliness of backpacking most of the time, is you put your trust in these people and they don't let you down. And you think, what a wonderful world we live in, beautiful and full of amazing experiences and people. Mal's holiday goes on. She goes on to Cambodia, Siem Reap, and all kinds of other places. Well done. Very amazing. Seema is here with her best holiday. She says maybe New Zealand. Again, such distance these people have covered. Amazing. I haven't been to Australia or New Zealand myself, I'm sorry to say. New Zealand, basically hiking and going to vineyards. I was in my element. That sounds dreamy, doesn't it? Oh, let's have a mental escape to a vineyard in New Zealand, hiking across the beautiful countryside. I can't help but think of Lord of the Rings when I think of New Zealand. I need to get that done, really. I'm a massive Lord of the Rings geek, as I was back in my uni days with Tom Rogers. And yeah, New Zealand, I still haven't crossed it off my list, so that one is one to go. And then Alice Arnold, who started her shows yesterday. Her first ever show was yesterday, and it was a zinger. It was a brilliant show. So excited to have her on the airwaves in the future of Teachers Talk Radio. Her best holiday is Cornwall. She says it sounds boring. I don't think that sounds boring at all, Alice. I think Cornwall is an absolutely acceptable and wonderful place to have your favorite holiday. we didn't have a lot of money when I was younger, but we would always save up and go to Cornwall every year. Cornish pasties, cheap family days out. That's lovely. I think that's a great choice. It's something about the special memories as well, isn't it? Sometimes you can't recreate those. You can go to Cornwall, you can show people your traditions and lovely things that you did, but nothing quite fills in that blank of a family holiday. Which of course get harder to do as we get older. For a million reasons, it can be harder to recreate those. So they live on in our minds as we escape back to these places whenever we can. And I encourage you to escape there today. And this is a lovely final note from Alice. As we think about our favorite holidays. I think that a good holiday doesn't matter about where you are. It's sometimes just about who you're with and the memories and bonding time that goes with it. Isn't that the truth? And that's almost a different thing we could think about maybe as we go into the summer holidays, maybe in a future year. But the kind of, the understated holidays. What's the most understated but wonderful holiday you've had? One I can remember is when it was absolutely chucking down with rain. I was in America. I was doing my Camp America thing at the time, so I was on a camp and it was chucking it down with rain. And myself and my now wife, but not wife at the time, we weren't even together at the time, but we went out and kind of went down to the waterfront and just enjoyed that kind of the weather. And it was very understated. There was nothing fancy about it, but it was really nice to be in the rain in this place far away from home with people you really care about. Nice times. So there we go. Those are some escapes to get to. Some escapes. I'm going to have a quick scroll down and see if there are any other. I think there are some other lovely escapes here. See if I can find them from fellow hosts and escapes. I don't know if I'm going to find them. Alas, feel free to throw in your own. I'd love to hear from your own lovely holidays and things that you've enjoyed. In fact, we have I won't name this host. It's a mystery host for the future. They say best holiday was Greece a couple of years ago with my best mate and her family. We just had a good old laugh. Do you go holidaying with friends? That's something when I was younger, I used to be a bit anxious thinking about going on holidays with friends. And then as I got older, we tried it out and it's been great. And then you find these amazing, you share those memories in a group, and then it becomes this really special bonding point for groups of friends. A little thing of mine when we're on holidays and we go with friends has become introducing the game Risk. Do you know the game Risk, the board game Risk? That has become a thing that I do when we go on holidays with friends. So we were down in Dartmoor in recent years. I say recent years, going back now 3 or 4 years ago. We had a cottage down in Dartmoor and I brought the game Risk and the friends who we were with them, let me think, there were 3 friends we were with there and none of them had played Risk before. And by the end of the trip, we were playing it every night and the people absolutely loved it. And it was a really great little escape. So holidays, guys, favorite holidays, escapes. Where do you go to when you wish to relax in your mind? Funnily, when I was in year 9, we went to Spain and that was one that we then later on, I think year 10 or 11, we had some meditative kind of workshop and I recalled that. And now, because that recalling of it was so relaxing, now if ever I kind of have a moment I want to relax my mind, I might lie back in my bed and think of that break in Spain and the beach, even though it was a really packed beach. It was very, very busy. And I was, only a kid, not much going about my head at all. But it was a lovely little escape at the time. So feel free to drop those in. Favorite holidays you've been on. Maybe favorite holidays you would like to do, but you haven't done yet. What's on your list? What's on your holiday bucket list to be done? Drop that into the comments. Let me know. We are live on Sunday afternoon. We've crossed into the afternoon now, and we're only on for another few minutes, 7 minutes. So rush in, cram in your favorite holidays, whoever you are in the room. I'd love to hear from you. You can type them in, or perhaps you would like to you'd like to call in and tell us your holidays live on the air. Just click that round grey icon in the Podbean app and you can speak to me live and you can have that moment. And I will allow myself to switch off and escape mentally to wherever your holiday destination may be. But where's your places you want to go to? I'll tell you one I've never done, but is on my list of things to do. It's not really a relaxing one. And this is why I'm slightly reluctant about doing it. But I've never been to like the theme parks of Florida, like the studios and the Disneyland and all that kind of stuff, Disney World, whichever one is the one in Florida. I've never done that. And my wife's a massive fan of doing a big Florida holiday. I've never done it. What's your thoughts on that? Should I embrace the active theme parky holiday? I love a theme park. I love a day out at a theme park. but to do a whole holiday, I worry it won't be relaxing enough. Sobia says, do it. That is great. That's exactly what I need. I think I will. Certainly, if there's a good Star Wars land or a good Nintendo land, because they're starting to crop up now. I know there's a Nintendo land in Japan. If one of those crops up, then I'll be definitely down for that. I also have to wait for my little boy to get to the right age, so he'll like get the most out of it. He's currently 18 months, and so I'm thinking probably 5 to 7 is like the peak age to do that kind of a trip. But it comes with high recommendations, it seems, to do a theme park holiday. And then, and within that, I would simply be following her lead. I'd be saying, where's the places to go? Apart from Nintendo Land, which, of course, I would demand to visit and act like a sulky child until we got to Nintendo Land. Khalil Rouse has joined the room. He is following this show at 1 p.m. onwards. He has the lunch show on Sunday, and he is an amazing host, lovely guy, always talks super real and super, gets to the nub of issues in a wonderful way. And so I'm looking forward to hearing him in a short while. So he's just got home. Hi, matey. Good to have you here, Khalil. Good to have you here. Zara says, we can. I'm wondering what the we can is in reference to. Is to do with the holidays? I forget. But yes, indeed, that is the hope. So where do you want to escape to? People in the room. Zara, Seema, Fatima. I wonder if Fatima might be a kid from my class. You never know. Yes, indeed. Today's show could well have an audience of Year 6 kids, which is weird and wonderful. But there we go. They found out. They scoped me out this week. They came in and said, Mr. Column, we were listening to your podcast. To which I said, what? How have you found this? Why would you even want to listen to this? Get a life, kids. But anyway, they were all very excited, and I had many assurance that they may well be listening, at least at some point today. I imagine they will switch on and within 5 minutes get very bored and be out again by the time that goes on. But anyway, we're talking holidays, which, funnily enough, the thought of the topic of holidays came to me because I was thinking, how could I quite... it was a bit of a joke in my mind in terms of if my kids were all going to come in and be in the room while I was hosting this show, I thought I could make the main theme switching off from teaching and getting away from the classroom. And my kids might kind of enjoy that I was turning that on its head. But there we go. Listeners of Teachers Talk Radio, I hope you've enjoyed a little mental escape here with me today. I've certainly enjoyed I think the place I would, when I want to switch off mostly, I think the mental place, I think Mexico takes it. I think I'm with Amy Ferguson on that. The hot tub on a roof, she had a hot tub on a roof in Mexico, pure sun. She was there at Christmas time, New Year, winding down. Where's your mental escape when you want to relax? If the TAGs are getting a bit much, and you want to put them down for a bit and just close your eyes and breathe and allow your mind to wander, where do you go? I'd love to hear from you. Zara, Khalil, Sobia, where would you go to if you let your mind escape? David was in the room earlier. Tom Hopkins-Burke was in the room earlier. I wonder where you guys would escape to, should you have the thought to escape. Holidays are more sleepy, Zara says. Yes, indeed. Race across the world. Wow, Sobia. Sobia, man, you never cease to amaze me with your just amazing energy. Race across the world. The race element stresses me out a bit. Why race? Waltz across the world. Kind of, what can I say? Lays across the world is what I might go with. But I do like it. And I wonder what stops you go on. Of course, there's so many amazing places. Since my week in Japan, I've always been desperate to go back. I wonder if you're the same as me, where it kind of gave you that taste, but you really I want to go back and I want to share it with my partner as well and say, look, this is such an amazing place, and show us some cool places and discover new places as well. And Khalil says, asleep in the shade on a golden Caribbean beach. Oof. Yes, please. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Never been to the Caribbean myself, but you've kind of articulated it perfectly there, just to what I'd imagine a golden Caribbean beach. Yes, pure sands, and what a lovely escape that would be. There's something to think about for your Sunday afternoon, guys. David says sand dune surfing. David is also a fellow host, by the way. He is an awesome drive home show, and kind of ex DJ, or maybe DJing at this point too. But he's runs a really great show. Sand dune surfing in Namibia. David Cunningham is also a geography teacher, so he is a man of the world, actually, in that sense, where it doesn't surprise me that his is Namibia, which was a little bit off necessarily the kind of holiday goers trail, but lovely sand dune surfing. I can only imagine, but you know what, it does wonders for one's mental health just to think of it. Just to think about that golden Caribbean beach, the sand dune surfing. Ah, yes, yes, indeed. That's what it's all about, guys. That's what it's all about. Sunday brunch. That's the vibe I'm running with here. Absolutely. Total escape, David says. Yes, indeed. So get him in there, guys. Get him in there. Mental escapes. Where do you go? We've had some lovely UK-based escapes. We've had multiple people mention Snowdonia. Multiple people mention lakes. We had the Dartmoor National Park mentioned. I'll tell you what, New Forest I went to recently. Amazing. New Forest. You know what? New Forest, you're driving down the road and you have to stop the car because there's a donkey crossing the road or a horse crossing the road. And sometimes they just stop there and they're just going to have the grass by the side of the road. And they are not bothered about your car waiting. And rightfully so. They own the lands in the New Forest. Nature does. And not only are there, of course, amazing walks and amazing pubs and amazing things to do, but nature rules. And there's nothing quite like driving into New Forest over the plains, flat land. And you see like all, animals cross them distances and in the fields. And it's like it takes you back. It makes you think this is what it would have been like. This is what the country would have been like pre, intense civilization development. But really great. New Forest is a special place. So that one comes recommended as a local area to go to. Scottish Highlands were mentioned. The reason I'm throwing these in at the end, I'm thinking if you want to get booking or go to a place nearby over this summer, these are the ones to go to. Snowdonia, Dartmoor, Scottish Highlands, New Forest. North Wales coast in general is beautiful. What lucky people we are to live in this country full of such natural wonders. Anglesey, beautiful place with some lovely beaches. Newborough Beach on Anglesey, lovely place. Yes, indeed. Cornwall was mentioned. The ice creams and the family holidays down in Cornwall. Isle of Wight hasn't been mentioned, but I'm going to throw that one in too. I'm up on time. I've been rambling on too much. What can I say? I let my mind escape. And I hope that you guys do too. I hope you make some time. If you are in your TAGs right now, represent yourself and make sure you look after your mental health and provide that mental escape. David, thank you for saying great show as always. That's a lovely compliment. I appreciate greatly. Thank you. I hope you've all enjoyed having a little escape with me today. I wonder, I'm in the mysterious company of listeners. I can't help but wonder if some of them are in my class. I'll hear about it on Monday and I'll see how they all get on. I'm sure they switched off by now anyway. It's been lovely being on the airwaves. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll speak to you all again next week to wind down further for your Sunday afternoons. Have a great one and speak to you then. You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.